Here we are back again talking about Chapter 159 has been released, and you know what that means. We got Garou being a complete badass and, some good old fan service too. How big is that thing? It's ginormous. It's huge. Like, look at it. Look how big it grows. Almost leaving Earth. Wait. What do you think I was talking about?
By the way, you're gay.
Chapter 159 starts off with a conversation between a mime mask in his torn clothes and an extremely pale man in an extremely oversized t-shirt. I wonder who he could be. They ask each other what the hell they are doing when a mime mask explains that his favorite skinny jeans were torn by a monster, exposing those sweet cheeks. The characterization of Amai hits home, however, as he wonders to himself if the dude is from the media, since we know Amai Mask is self-centered and egotistical when it comes to his image in the public. That perception takes #1 priority over everything else, thus juxtaposing Garou's beliefs, as he mentioned that monsters are always seen as ugly and evil no matter their story. On the other hand, heroes are always accepted by society due to their label of being good, but we all know in the inside, when a mime mask doesn't get his way, his ugly veiny side elevates. And by the way, if you're wondering like, wait, ABD, what the hell? How is a mime mask alive? We watched this guy get his head caved in and his body was completely ripped in half, yet he has managed to regenerate? Well, you see, we actually saw this in his fight against the bondage girl. Back then, he had his eye completely destroyed by her tongue, and then just a couple of panels later, his eye is completely fine again. His regenerative ability also explains how and why he always retains his handsome looks. But for those who are a bit confused, the official English version of this scene on Viz was actually removed completely. That's why, guys, you have to hit the notification bell for our channel so you don't miss out on any key details regarding One Punch Man's story. Moving back to chapter 159, the guy he's talking to is actually Pig God. The last time we saw him was back when Fubuki asked Pig God to seemingly help heal Tank Top Master. Clearly, this led to him expending almost all of his energy, forcing him to either return back to what seems to be his normal physique, or he is in a severely malnourished form. Anyways, a mime mask decides to use Pig God's jacket to cover the lower half of his body, as his clothes are almost non-existent. He then tells Pig God to follow him, as he'll lead him to a safe place, because he believes Pig God to be a random journalist from the media, not recognizing him in his new form. And again, what the story is highlighting here is that a mime mask doesn't selflessly help, unlike Garou does for Tareo. Amai thinks this dude is from the media, because why else would a civilian be near the battlefield if it wasn't to cover it on the news? Amai Mask then declares that he plans to enact revenge upon the monster that destroyed his skinny jeans by treating him the same way. However, Pig God declines and starts eating Gums, who was killed previously by Fura Ugly to regain his strength. Amai Mask doesn't understand how Pig God, or rather, a stranger in his eyes, is eating a monster. He simply bids his goodbyes and leaves, probably hoping that he never has to witness such an atrocity again. As Pig God continues to feast, we can see the Sage Centipede chasing his core in the background. During this chase between Sage Centipede and Garou, our boy Garou simply used this big ass monster as, an Uber driver. He then rebounds from the core and attacks Sage Centipede with a single karate chop. Yeah, just one! Before we get to see how effective the chop is, there's a flashback to the time when Garou had recently joined Bang's dojo. Bang asked Garou to break a bunch of tiles with a single chop. Before Garou can, Sourface, the guy with the butt chin, decided that he'd set an example for the newcomer. However, he failed miserably because Bang had kept tiles made out of ceramic, making them harder to break. After Sourface made made a fool of himself and looking like an idiot in front of the whole class, Garou lined up to flex on him. He said, "Listen, bitch, you ain't a main protagonist of a show, I am." He laid out dozens and dozens of these tiles and hit them hard with the karate chop, even gaining Bang's respect by breaking them. However, Garou was just off his mark. A single tile remained, and Garou claims that's where it all started. Whilst Garou might seem like he is putting a lot of hard work and effort into achieving his goals, in our last review, we mentioned how Garou only had one option to achieve his goal, the option to become a monster and make everyone fear him. However, in reality, this is the only option he saw. We know that monsters by nature are more powerful than humans, which means it would take a shorter amount of time for him to get stronger. Garou has always been conflicted with himself on how to achieve his goals. He always wanted power above all, and once he met Bang and became his #1 disciple, he has been trying hard to get his acknowledgement ever since. But instead of staying human, working hard and surpassing his limits, where his core beliefs and discipline resides in, he decided to go the easy route of power, which is to become a monster. We see in his flashback that he effortlessly breaks all of the tiles except the one. These tiles also represent the bonds he has as a human, and each of these bonds he had to break in order to become the ultimate monster that he desires to be. However, as you can see, he couldn't break one, and that represents his human bond with Tareo and his hero side. It is that relationship that is keeping his humanity alive. It is why we see in the final panel of this chapter that Garou reopened one of his human eyes. Despite him thinking, "Oh gee, I broke them all this time round," the fact that his human eye remains and breaks through his monsterification, it highlights how Garou's monster form is regressing the more he thinks as a human. That one tile still remains unbroken in his heart. We then come back to the current time where Garou hits Sage Centipede with the karate chop, and guess what? He slices through all of the monster's humongous body with ease, like putting butter on bread, fam. Oh my god, like fam, this is arguably the biggest feat Garou has achieved so far. Now before I fanboy over Garou and you guys write in the comments, this guy always talks about Garou every chapter, sucking this guy off, like I know some of you write comments like that. I swear, you guys are degenerates and you're moving mad. But let me just explain how Garou achieved a feat similar to what Saitama does. This 6,666 handed centipede is far taller than what we had originally imagined. It managed to catch up to the core by the time all of its body had been exposed. While it's tough to understand just how long Sage Centipede is, as I didn't pass in trigonometry, I'm not good at maths, fam, it would be safe to assume that the monster is at least 30 kilometers long. Like, think about that. 30 kilometers got destroyed in one hit. We can make this deduction using the panel where Garou attacks the Sage Centipede with a karate chop, as the two are above the layer of Earth's atmosphere with clouds. While it seems like they're way above the clouds, we don't know if that's right or not, but it's a good guesstimate. The distance between the clouds and the two characters fighting could simply be a kilometer or two as well. Hence, it is safe to assume that Sage Centipede is at least 30 kilometers long. Whilst that is nothing to scoff at, what impressed me even more is the fact that Garou managed to destroy a 30 kilometer long dragon level threat with such ease. This is something crazy to think about. This is Saitama level, we have to agree to that. Now obviously he's not at Saitama's power level, we're not going to even dare say that, but Garou is one of the strongest heroes, monsters out there. Garou then proclaims that he has achieved the epitome of martial arts. It's apparent that both Bang and Bomb, the greatest martial artists in history, could never do this, even at their peak. He then further called Sage Centipede to simply be a blessing instead of divine retribution as it claimed to be, as the centipede allowed him to surpass his limits and perfect his martial arts. We then see a beautiful panel with Garou's perfected connected fists, which looks completely different from all of Garou's transformations so far. The hand is of a bright color, shining and extremely smooth, unlike the rest of Garou's body, which looks more like hardened skin. This hand seems to be similar to Black Sperm's transformation into Platinum Sperm. This also means that Garou is still only getting started, since the rest of his body still hasn't reached the same perfection as his hand. This creates a window of opportunity for the finale of Garou's character. However, it would be boring to see Garou do this again and again until he gets his body perfected, but it will certainly be interesting to see just how strong Garou can become. I can only see Tatsumaki, God, Blast and Saitama being capable enough to beat the current Garou. It also seems to be a good thing that a part of his hardening fell when he fought Bang, because this hardening seems to be an extremely unrefined version of his powers, which solely relies on his instincts, taking away most of his judgment skills and leaving him as a being who's neither evil nor good, meaning that he wasn't a hero or monster, simply a human being looking to fight. With that said, we're extremely excited to see how strong Garou can become. The manga is deviating from the webcomic more and more, and the story is adding new elements that make it better. Make sure to join us next time and watch this video right now, as you will find it just as interesting.